Chair. Look, Secretary, earlier in questioning today, you were asked about net zero, and you said, and I quote, "There's no question that there's further investment that has to take place." How much further investment has to take place?
What do you mean? How much?
To get to net zero. How much do we need to invest to get to net zero?
So I'm not sure exactly what question you're asking over what time frame.
The goal is net zero by 2050, so that's the time frame.
That's right. And between now and then, there's a lot of private investment that will take place.
I'm only asking, didn't you just do a modelling exercise?
Yeah, we did. So
how much? What's the figure?
So I'm not sure whether we have a figure of the total amount of investment, but it's also, I'm not quite sure how meaningful the question is. So there is a lot of investment that has to take place over the period ahead, and I'm conscious that energy experts like AEMO and AEMC in the Integrated System Plan talk about the types of investments that need to take place over the period ahead. Some of this investment is government, some of this investment will be private sector. In fact, the vast majority of it will be in the private sector.
I'm asking for both, because presumably the modelling exercise looked at the whole economy. So how much capital investment is required to get to net zero by 2050?
Dr Heath, do we have a figure on that?
So it depends exactly how you're asking the question. So the modelling exercise, as we discussed at the last estimates, was designed to understand the path to net zero.
Right.
And so part of the, depending on exactly what you're asking, the baseline of what would happen if we didn't have the target is not something that was part of the exercise.
So
and
you can't tell me, despite all the modelling that was done and the spruiking the government's done of it, you can't tell me how much money Australia has to spend to get to net zero by 2050.
Again, it depends what the baseline is, and we did not model a baseline where that net zero target was not achieved.
But then what's the worth of the modelling if you can't tell me how much net zero costs?
Well, the purpose of the modelling was to understand different paths to achieving net zero.
Not actually to evaluate whether net zero is a good thing or not. Can you conclude from your modelling whether net zero is good or bad?
So, as you are aware from the previous conversation, one of the scenarios was a scenario where we didn't have intermediate targets and clear policy direction, which led to less investment in the energy transition. I didn't ask about scenarios.
I've got limited time. Just asked, can you conclude from your modelling whether net zero is a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, good in bad in what? On what metric?
I don't know. It's in the Oxford Dictionary sense, but can you or can't you? I mean, good for our economy, good for our wealth, good for our prosperity, all these good things. Is it good or bad?
So the scenarios that we run, if we're talking about economic outcomes, made the point that it is an orderly transition is going to be more economically beneficial in terms of things like growth rates.
But that's not relevant to my question, because both of those scenarios go to net zero. Might move on, I've got limited time. How much is the capacity investment scheme going to cost?
That's a question for DQ.
You haven't calculated that at all?
We don't have the information that we would need. That's a DQ
I see
program.
The Treasurer has been making statements that extending coal-fired power stations would cost $17 billion the federal budget of the next decade. Did he ask Treasury to help calculate that number?
I think I'm not aware of that being asked of
We'll take that
Treasury, but we'll
so where
take
did the Treasurer get that figure?
Well,
let us take us on notice.
He didn't ask
can
Treasury
I take
officials?
That on notice?
You're the energy and what's
correct
group, or what do you call it?
The Climate, Energy and Trade Insights Division.
So he's got a whole division on climate and energy, and the Treasurer didn't even ask you whether that figure he put out in the media is correct.
What I'm saying is, I personally.
Well, I would have thought you'd know yourself if he had asked.
Well, as you can see. Right. In recent times, I have had a broader scope, so I will take that on notice.
Okay. All right, that's remarkable. Sounds like you didn't even ask for advice. Okay. I just wanted to table a map I've distributed. Has that been, I think, hopefully printed out? I've got a few copies myself, if anyone wants to grab them. This is a map of Australia of the amount of land that's been lost to reforestation in the last few decades. I just particularly want to ask about a figure in the Treasury modelling about how much extra emissions are going to come from reforestation. So I think this is on page 32, chart 3.14. And there you say that you're expecting to get to net zero, you need 107 million tonnes of abatement from reforestation, alone, just in the red part of the bar. How much land will that come from?
So, as we discussed in the previous estimates...
I wasn't here, sorry.
Apologies then. I will
issues, but yep, sorry.
Start from scratch.
Okay.
So the way that we have done our modelling is to think about the additional emissions that would occur as the marginal incentive to abate changes.
Right.
That is information that we put together in close collaboration with our colleagues at the Department of Agriculture. Forestry.
I've just got limited time. How much land? How much land has to be taken?
So our modelling is very top-down and doesn't go to that level of granularity.
How do you know you're going to get that much abatement if you don't know where it's going to come from?
So it is based on these emission reduction functions that we developed in conjunction with our Department of Agriculture colleagues.
Areas I represent, rural farming communities, are already concerned about the loss of productive farmland to what's happened before, and I don't know if you've got this map yet.
I do
that?
have a copy of the map.
Yeah, right. So, as you can see, the vast majority of what we've lost so far to this process is in our productive food growing areas. And so how do we know that another 107 million tonnes won't impact on food growing areas if you haven't even looked at whether this has to come from those parts of the country?
What you need to be able to answer that question is a much more granular model that has much more detail, geographic spatial detail, and that is not the nature of the model that we used in the report. The Department of Agriculture
I'm just getting, I mean, the government's been using this modelling to say how great net zero is and it's really important, but we don't even know whether net zero is going to require us to have to significantly reduce food growing in this country, impacting on lots of rural towns who rely on agriculture for their lifeblood. You can't answer that question for me?
Not at the level of detail that you're...
Well, why have we signed up to net zero before we knew that we'd have to lose farm food growing rural communities?
So I don't think you can conclude from the modelling that the land-based abatement that we talk about would necessarily be coming from the most productive food-growing areas of the economy. You would have to use a much more granular model, and that is not something that we were...
So ABARES told me the other day that the max you can get, or in their range, the max you can get per hectare is 21 tonnes of abatement, carbon abatement per hectare. If we need 107 million tonnes, that's at least 5 million hectares, is it not?
I think I remember in evidence that you were asking for a DQ. That wasn't DQ's view. I think it was DQ.
Maybe I did. I was ABARES as well.
I'm not sure that the officials as she's indicated, that work is undertaken in other parts of government. This is a different kind of work.
Okay.
I think Senator, one of the points of this exercise, particularly from a Treasury perspective, was to outline what are some of the significant sort of sectoral changes which are going to take place, but also, if you like, what some of the additional work that's going to need to be done in order to then better understand what that actually means. And my understanding is that ABARES have already noted the considerable variation that exists in estimates of how much abatement can be achieved. And I had understood that they're undertaking additional work.
They are doing it. It just seems strange to me
do that.
We're doing the work after we've signed up to the agenda, after imposing these costs on communities. This is not a game. This is not a game. Well, this is real people's lives. They're real people's jobs. And I cannot understand why you can't, after doing all this modelling, provide basic answers on how much it's going to cost, who's going to be impacted, where's the land going to be affected by this reforestation. 107 million tonnes is nothing to sneeze at. That's about a quarter of our emissions so far.
I'd just make a couple of points about those assertions, Senator. Firstly, the National Party used to stand for the property rights of farmers. and people have been able to make
Okay,
choices.
Chair, I want this time added. I'm happy for him to go, but I want this added because it didn't actually ask a question. He's now going to political points. It's not relevant to estimates.
It was Mr Joyce and Mr Morrison who...
We'll just add it. He's keeping the secretary around.
Let's try and keep things orderly so we can
who signed up for this proposition.
Minister and Senators.
It's a long-standing policy position of successive Australian governments to achieve net zero. I understand that you and other elements of the opposition have been prosecuting this position. I just make the point that it has been a long-standing position of governments, and policy certainty matters. Nobody on any farm, and you've got a map with green dots on it.
This is not my map. It's a Department of Climate Change map.
But you are making assertions. You are making assertions about the kind of country that is the subject of green dots. There, farmers have made decisions. Property that has different values all over it. They have made decisions. We don't support scapegoating farmers who are making those kinds of decisions. You may well do that.
It shows how
but we don't.
A lot of these green dots, as you call them, Minister, are because state governments have taken away property rights from farmers. They're not voluntary actions. But the fact that you don't know that shows how ignorant you are as to take. Maybe you should be silent of it before you further dig a bigger hole for yourself.
Economic value
if I can move on.
Country of variable value.
Okay. If I can move on, I just wanted to quickly ask, and I wanted more time, but the government's currently considering implementing carbon tariffs or a carbon border adjustment mechanism. In your modelling, did you factor in carbon tariffs imposed at the Australian border? We did not. You did not? Well,
so the carbon leakage review, the carbon leakage review has been considered by government, and decisions about how they may go forward on that is a decision for government that has not yet been taken. But the government has flagged,
well, they wouldn't be doing a review if otherwise, they've flagged that they may have to, and most likely will have to, impose carbon tariffs on our border, yet you're telling me your modelling didn't even consider carbon tariffs as in any scenarios.
So our modelling took government policy as given, and that is not currently government policy.
Why would they be doing the review unless there's a chance? Are you saying there's no chance that Australian governments will have to impose carbon tariffs in the next 25 years?
That's not what Dr Heath is saying. Right. Senator, you know what these modelling exercises involve, and we take government policy as given, and then, as is the case in the 2021 modelling that was done, as was the case in the modelling that was done earlier, like in 2011, the modelling is designed to demonstrate the sort of impact on the macroeconomy of this sort of a transition. It is not prescriptive about the particular policies. It is not a bottom-up estimate of a particular set of policies to deliver an outcome.
Can you just help me?
That's what's common across all of these sorts of models.
You might be able to help me with something that stumps me. If net zero is meant to lower costs, make us more energy competitive, create jobs, why would industries need a carbon tariff to protect them against countries that aren't pursuing net zero?
So it's a matter for government to determine whether or not any adjustments need to be made in relation to not distorting, either production or trade flows. That's the argument that comes to. But seriously, Senator, it would be probably.
You can see my confusion though here. It's just. I don't understand because we're told constantly that going to net zero is going to be better for our economy, going to make it easier and cheaper for Australian businesses. But if that were the case, why would they need to have a protective tariff against other countries who are not pursuing net zero? Because those other countries would have higher costs already, wouldn't they?
Senator, is this your last question?
Yep.
Yeah. So, Senator, that this is a policy matter which is for government. There has been a review. There's been a number of discussions around border adjustment mechanisms, the circumstances, and I'm not actually talking about the most recent one, circumstances in which they can or should be considered. Government, as I understand it, has not made a decision. and that would be a matter for government in considering a wide range of factors as to whether that was an appropriate policy intervention.